Hey, what's up guys? Sensus here, and today I'm going to be showing you some tips and tricks and things to know when getting started in Lost Ark. Most of what we're going to talk about are quality of life improvements that can be achieved by adjusting some of the in-game settings, as well as some general information that I wish I knew when I originally started. So with that, let's get into it. First off, to hide your UI, all you need to do is press Alt-X 3 times. Each time you press it, it'll hide a portion of your UI until it's completely gone. And of course, to bring your UI back, simply press Alt-X a 4th time. The next thing I want to talk about involves the overlay map. So if you hit tab in-game, it'll pull up a map of the zone you're currently in. And something a lot of new players don't realize is if you hold down Alt, you can teleport to any of the triports within your current zone directly from your overlay map without having to open up the world map. You can also adjust the transparency of the overlay map and minimap via the transparency scroll bar on your minimap, and you can move the overlay map wherever you want by hovering your mouse cursor over it and holding down the middle mouse button. Next up, we have how you can force a 21:9 aspect ratio in-game. Now this is especially useful in PvP, since it increases your field of view, allowing you to more easily track enemy movement and spell trajectory. To enable this, simply go to your video tab in your settings menu and check Force 21:9 aspect ratio. And if you're like me and use a 16:9 monitor, I also recommend increasing the HUD size to 110% so you can more easily track the cooldowns of your abilities. Moving on to the accessibility tab, starting with control accessibility. Here you can change the color of your in-game mouse cursor as well as its size. It's worth noting that you can also change the color of your mouse cursor by using the shortcut Control and scroll wheel. This will allow you to cycle through the different cursor colors anytime. The next thing I want to discuss is Photosensitivity Mode under Video Accessibility. Essentially what this does when enabled is it tones down the color intensity of the game's visuals. Lost Ark has no shortage of flashy spells, and this setting makes the game easier to look at and cause less eye strain. Next, we have controls and display under the gameplay tab. The first thing we're going to look at here is the show HP bar section. By default, the game has the player HP bar unchecked. Personally, I prefer it on since it makes it a bit easier to monitor my character's health by having an HP bar appear above my character's head. These settings all come down to personal preference, so just go with what works best for you. Moving on to the show combat and pet section, we're going to look at the battle effects display drop-down menu. As I mentioned earlier, Lost Ark has no shortage of flashy spells, and that can get a little overwhelming and make it difficult to see what's going on when you have a group of 4 people in a dungeon spamming their abilities. For this setting, I recommend going with the Include Buff Effects of Party Members option. This will allow you to see battle effects for enemies and AoE buffs used by party members. So essentially, the important stuff. Under the same section, we have Combat Outline, Display My Pet, and Display Others' Pets. Enabling Combat Outline highlights the outline of your character, making it easier to see where you are when you're fighting a large group of enemies. Display My Pet and Display Others' Pets, as the name suggests, allow you to show or hide your pet and the pets of other players. The next thing we're going to look at are combat settings. So the drop-down menu for auto move gives you 2 options. The first option makes it so your character moves in the direction they're facing when auto move is enabled. The second option makes it so your character will move in the direction where the cursor is. It's also worth mentioning that the default keybind for auto move is T. Under the same section we have Cursor Aim, Skill Screen Shake, and Skip Dungeon Cutscenes. Cursor Aim essentially causes your abilities to lock onto a specific enemy targeted by your mouse cursor. This can be especially problematic for ranged classes, since you may unintentionally lock onto an enemy that's spread out from the pack and miss your intended targets. This setting comes down to personal preference, but as long as you feel confident in your ability to aim and land your spells, it might be best to keep this unchecked. Skill Screen Shake is pretty self-explanatory. When enabled, it will cause your screen to slightly shake when you use abilities, and unchecking it will disable it. I personally prefer it off since it simply makes the game feel smoother to play. And the last setting we have here is Skip Dungeon Cutscenes, another self-explanatory one. When enabled, it will automatically skip cutscenes when you're in a dungeon, making it so you won't have to manually skip them. Anyway, that'll do it for this video, guys. I hope it helped. If it did, please be sure to let me know down in the comments. And feel free to check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/sensuslive, where I stream pretty regularly. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.